Great Scott! If my calculations are correct, you are listening to this before your fantasy football drafts have taken place. I've been to the future, and those that followed the advice from the Fantasy Footballer's Ultimate Draft Kit had a spectacular season and withstood many victories. It's almost as if Biff had given each of them a copy of Gray's Sports Almanac. I'd highly recommend heading over to www.ultimatedraftkit.com without any further delay.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the FantasyJocks.com studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Is this how we're really starting the show?
Welcome to the show.
If you're not on the YouTube version, you missed us doing the Ted.
Ted Thompson clapping happening over here.
Everybody Ted.
Welcome in.
So you had a Ted.
It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood.
Teach me how to Thompson.
Teach me how to Thompson. If you don't know, Ted Thompson is many things, but a clapper he is not. He has not learned how to clap. This was a classic gift from years ago, and then the draft happened, and he showed that he still has not learned to clap.
He celebrated that draft pick with...
And to describe it with words, it's a very... There's no turning of the hand of any way. The hands line up perfectly.
Fingers are not spread.
The fingers are not spread, and it's just kind of a very procedural
And the hands
clap.
are flat as a board. There's no curve.
You would
at all.
expect there to be no sound that is emitted almost at all from the. That's why you couldn't hear it on the intro. Teach me how to Thompson. Welcome to the podcast, the Fantasy Footballers. Back again, May the 4th. People who like Star Wars like this day.
Good news to people that like Star Wars and like the show. So for a long time, we had a Star Wars shirt on shopballers.com, which is one of my favorite shirts, except when we made it, we had a problem. We were
too creative.
We put stars in the background. It looks so good on a computer, and then you print it and you get your shirt, and you feel like you ate powdered donuts.
Yeah, the stars look like dandruff.
All times I'm just brushing my chest off.
Yeah.
But a new fixed version is up.
I like both versions.
Yeah, if you are a person that deals with dandruff, it kind of blends in well. So
it's not me, it's the stars.
Today's show, if you listened on Tuesday, you know we did the AFC winners and losers from the draft. Today we've got you guessed it, the NFC winners and losers. It's going to be a great one. We're going to go through all the NFC teams, see who won and lost.
That just reminded me of John Gruden.
John Gruden?
All right, we already did the AFC. That means we're going to do the what? We're going to do the what?
NFC. You throw the what? What? Football. Yeah, that's right. This is going to be a fun show today. I can tell you that. We are on Twitter. I heard Twitter's doing well, by the way. That is not
Good
just
for you, Mr. Twitter.
a joke. I heard they're doing very well. They've added many users to the Twitter. And so you can be there, and you can follow us at the FF Ballers. We're also on YouTube, and the website is thefantasyfootballers.com. That's where you can find our ultimate draft kit, get you ready to dominate your 2017 draft. It's going to be great. I'm telling you, it's going to be good. Very good. Super good. All right, quick question of the day, guys. What are the fantasy implications of the signing that just took place? Jamaal Charles signs with the Broncos. Dun, 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 dun. I've heard everything on Twitter. It doesn't matter to, oh no, C.J. Anderson, to everything in between.
Here's what I think we can be sure of for C.J. Anderson. Other than the narrative that, well, now he can stay healthy because obviously he has not been able to stay healthy, and so bringing Jamaal Charles in will somehow make him avoid an injury because
Jamaal Charles knows everything about avoiding injury. He brought him in to model it.
Yeah, exactly. The reality here is that it is not good news for C.J. Anderson because C.J. Anderson was the presumed first and second down back, the goal line back. He could also catch passes, and now they brought in Jamaal Charles. Now, granted, that contract they're giving him, nothing is guaranteed. It's pretty much a veteran's minimum deal.
It is the minimum.
So, I mean, you know, I think this is just they needed another running back, and they brought in a guy who is potentially going to be very good. It's going to eat into all parties. C.J. Anderson is certainly not dead to me. I'm more curious about not what this does to C.J. Anderson, but what will Jamaal Charles be able to be?
So you don't want a Donner Party situation here.
Where they're eating into everybody?
Yeah. No? Historical reference?
Yeah.
No. We'll just move on.
And
Historical murder reference?
well, moving on.
Great one. Mike.
This was a great move by John Elway and the Denver Broncos. This is, I mean, no risk. There is no risk to this contract. I'd also heard it was no guaranteed money. Did
Correct.
you guys hear?
Yes.
So, I mean, literally no risk at all. Reward of is Jamaal Charles at least 75% of who he can be, which is huge upside. But sorry, you think I'm going to stop, but I just, for the most part, I moved C.J. Anderson down slightly in the rankings. However, I still think that he is a strong target. His ADP will move down, which that's the scary thing about Anderson is he can't seem to finish the season, so you have to pay. His draft value does not match what he has done on the field the last couple of years. So if we move that ADP down, then I like Anderson a little bit more.
There are certain situations in the rankings of players, and obviously everybody – yesterday I had finished my initial running back rankings, statted everybody out. They asked about Jamaal Charles. I have Jamaal Charles right now statted for about 400 yards on the ground.
Yeah.
Okay? That being said, there are certain situations that are kind of – you do those rankings and you feel pretty good about them long term. And then there are situations like this one where you realize that the camp in preseason battle is going to tell you so much more about who comes out on top. Look, if Jamaal Charles is fine in preseason and lighting it up, it's going to change the whole story. Just like if Samaje Perine and Rob Kelly, they have a battle and, oh, man, this guy looks much better, or Ty Montgomery and Jamaal Williams, there are situations that will be carried. We just can't tell you yet because they're going to be battling it out. And so for me, it can't be good news for C.J. Anderson, but I wasn't very high on him anyways. He's one of those tough luck guys, the Mark Ingram, C.J. Anderson, Carlos Hyde crew that, boy, if all the stars in the universe aligned, they'd be good, but they just never have aligned for any of them. So
I'll tell you what, if you want the starting running back for the Denver Broncos week 7, just take Devontae Booker with your last round pick because he's going to be starting.
No, there is a silver lining here to the contract that's been given. When you look at Jamaal Charles, this is a guy who he's not coming back for the money. I mean, he didn't hold out. He's got nothing guaranteed, and he's saying, I want to prove that I still have it. I'm not going to invest highly in him at all.
I don't think he had much of a choice if he wanted to keep playing football.
Yeah, but the point is he wants to keep playing football, not getting a check.
How much of that is similar, though, to Fred Jackson in Seattle or Arian Foster in Miami, where their only options to keep playing football were those opportunities, and then they flamed out?
Jamaal Charles hasn't, played much football in 2 years. I mean, he was able to essentially leave. He's lost 2 years because of a knee injury. I don't think he comes back if he doesn't believe I've got something to prove. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I like Jamaal Charles, so I hope you're right. Mike, we need an update on the hair.
The updates.
The date, it came and went. It was May 2nd, Jason's birthday. And at the end of the day, how many people voted for your hair to come off and how many voted for it to stay on?
I don't have the numbers of how many, but I can tell you that the quantity of people who voted for me to keep the hair was the vast majority. However,
just didn't bring enough oomph.
Someone on this panel, who's specifically the man in front of me, running the show, Mr. Andrew Holloway, made a significant, which I thank you very much. My aunt thanks you very much. But Andy Holloway made sure that the hair is coming off.
Oh, the man bun will be no more.
I had to do it to support your aunt.
And I really appreciate it. I knew going into it that I was likely to lose the top off of my head.
Yeah.
Well, not the top off my head because that would be really bad.
That would be back to the Donner Party. So are you you can grow it back.
Yes,
if you don't like it.
Of course I can grow back. I mean,
theoretically, at least for a couple more years, you can grow back.
So those people wanted to save the bun. If you think Mike's going to go and not have some cool hairstyle, you're crazy.
Wrong.
Just wait for this mullet.
So
It's on the list. We know. We know it's got to be on the list.
But so, the preparations are being put in place. I'll do something fun. I'm sure I'll tape it. And for the people out there, of course, my hair will be donated. I mean,
yes,
it's long.
It's good that you said that because a lot of people have tweeted about that.
Of course. If the hair that's long enough will absolutely be donated
to Jason.
To a good
I'm thinning up front.
But so thank you so much. And please don't let the deadline of the hair dissuade you. If you want to help, footclanhelp.com. She still needs a lot of support to get to her goal.
All right, let's talk fantasy news.
News and notes from around the league.
If I had music to play from a circus, I would play it right now because the Bills have declined Sammy Watkins' fifth-year option for 2018 because in the National Football League, you do not need 24-year-old wide receivers at all. They're not a premium. Wide receivers, you don't pay for – oh, wait, 3 just went in the top 10 in the NFL draft? Oh, no.
I will say this, though. I'm not jumping all over the Bills just yet. Talk about a guy who has not played football for hardly any of his rookie contract. We don't have the medical information. The Bills do. His foot could be toast, and we don't know. And the Bills, all of their medical teams say that his foot is just not going to hold up long term. So maybe he has, a couple years left, but you can't invest the type of contract it would take to keep the first round pedigree. His elite level of athleticism and talent, but the production has not matched that. And if he's not going to be around to fulfill that contract, then the Bills. This is the only time can tell if
played
the Bills have done
16 games in 2014, down to 13 in 2015, 8 last year in 2016. Certainly not trending in the right direction, but I think it was a surprise for the majority of the NFL and fantasy community that they would decline the option. Now they had just cleared out their scouting and GM. It was this one of those things where the option was declined because no one was in the building to actually
to submit the paperwork. No,
right.
I mean, in reality, I think this is good news to a degree for Sammy Watkins owners in the sense that he doesn't have a guaranteed contract next year. So, 1, he's playing for it. 2, he has the opportunity now to go somewhere that has more passing volume in the future. I mean, I don't think it's going to change whether or not he's a good player going forward. So, I mean, if you've got him on your team, I would rather him go to a system where he's got more volume.
It's a good reminder because that's what matters, is whether you can play Sammy Watkins week to week.
And they can still franchise him if they feel like they've made a mistake.
That's what's going to happen because it will cost the Bills more money.
Panthers have exercised, as opposed to what Kelvin Benjamin, he has not exercised.
Come on!
All right, Panthers have exercised Kelvin Benjamin's fifth-year option. The Lions have exercised Eric Ebron's fifth-year option. Talk about these two.
I want to talk about the second one because
you go ahead.
Eric Ebron, I still am a huge believer in Eric Ebron, and I know that's not a popular thing to do because he is disappointed for being a number 10 overall NFL draft pick. But if you look at his 3 years,
he hasn't disappointed me.
No, well, that's good.
Like,
that's great.
I don't look at last year and say Eric Ebron is a huge disappointment.
No, but
unless you were expecting him to be, unless you overdrafted him, and I don't know.
Yeah, I think my point is that people wanted him to come out and be one of those top 5 fantasy tight ends when he was drafted, a couple years ago. But he has improved every single season. He gets a bad rap for drops. And going into this NFL draft, one of the deepest classes for tight ends.
We were worried about him.
There were questions of, are they going to take Njoku? Are they, what if Howard falls there, which he almost did? And then are they going to pick up that fifth-year option? This is saying we are now committed to him. He's necessary for the offense. He's going to be here this year. He's going to be there next year. And
this is year what?
This is year 4.
4. Okay.
He's disappointing to me as far as he's in the perfect situation. I mean,
the Jermichael Finley of the modern age.
He's with the Lions. They are a pass-happy team. I mean, when's the last time they had a dominant running back?
Barry Sanders.
Thank you for proving my point. And then on top of that, they didn't have a really reliable second weapon. Marvin Jones, had those great couple games to start, but then he was just basically a disaster for the rest of the season. You had Golden Tate. They're relying on Anquan Bolden. And it's just you have Eric Ebron there. Why are you not the guy who is stepping up, forcing the team to get you the ball?
And see, here's the thing. I think Eric Ebron did do that. He just didn't score touchdowns, and that's one of those things that's always hard to quantify and predict.
Hey, he's a positive regression candidate. He'll probably be a sleeper for us on our draft kit.
I mean, he had 5 touchdowns in his sophomore year. He only had 1 touchdown last year, but if you look at his receptions, he went from 25 his rookie year to 47 to 61, and he only played 13 games last year, and he had 61 for 711 yards. Had he had, normal tight end touchdown numbers, people would be loving him. So I really do. He's one of my favorite draft candidates for his ADP right now.
Justin Forsett retired from the NFL, but his Twitter lives on, so we can be happy about that.
I love Justin Forsett. Appreciate your time, my friend. Enjoy retirement.
Yeah. Hope it treats you well. All right, the NFC East, we're going to start right now. The NFC winners and losers from the draft. We're going to start with the Dallas Cowboys, a team we knew heading into the draft needed to address the defensive side of the ball. They did that with their first 3 picks, which was a defensive end and 2 cornerbacks.
They addressed Tuesdays.
W'hat's that?
Taco Tuesdays.
All right. Mike, always on top of the analysis. Ryan Switzer in the 4th round. A 5'8", 181 wide receiver out of North Carolina, and a 7th round wide receiver. So on the offensive side of the ball, they
didn't touch much.
I
mean, they got a great wide receiver for their system. Obviously, Cole Beasley works. Ryan Switzer's called Cole Beasley. I mean, they're very similar types of players. Small, great, quickness and route running. But this offense is intact. Everybody that you were already going to draft is great. I would say the only winner, since everyone else is fine, is Jason Witten, because they could have gone out and got his heir apparent. They didn't, so he's going to be.
I would put Darren McFadden on that list.
Yeah,
Darren McFadden's an actual winner because they didn't bring another backup in. They obviously feel confident that McFadden can do that job, and we know how great that job is if someone goes down ahead of him.
And the Switzer pick. So Cole Beasley is coming to the end of his contract. The Cowboys can get out after this season extremely cheap. And Cole Beasley he accounted for 20% of their targets last year. This is a position that Dak likes to target. Now, I know that Dez missed some time, but it's still Dez Bryant played, 12 games. He is a part of that offense, that slot receiver. So in a PPR, I like taking Switzer in a
dynasty.
With a third round rookie pick.
I don't think it's going to affect Beasley this year.
Agree.
Let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, one of the teams that we thought could snag a running back very early in the draft. Yeah, so I guess by way of not doing that, Darren Sproles has an established role. The beat writer opinion is that Sproles is still going to headline that dirty backfield, as I'll call it right now, because, look, you have Wendell Smallwood, who I think my opinion is the team likes Wendell Smallwood.
Just bananas.
Well, I don't think Wendell Smallwood did anything wrong last year at all.
He didn't do anything right.
He didn't have the opportunity.
One of the things
but I don't think he's a headline back.
After the draft, we look at, we talked last show about, what is the team saying, their truth, because they drafted who they did, and they didn't, draft a running back. So sometimes you could say, okay, that shows confidence in their players, right? You say, well, they like Wendell Smallwood. I don't think that's the case here. Some reports after the draft were talking about how they were looking at Dalvin Cook, but the Vikings
I think they wanted Dalvin Cook.
And the Vikings traded up unexpectedly to snag him away. The draft just didn't fall that direction, and then, their board dictated other options. So this is one I would just throw a little bit of caution, saying that they are happy with their current running backs, and I could still expect to see changes as the season progresses.
Mike, before you contribute there, I do want to take a quick second and remind everybody that
Thank you.
It's gonna be
May 14th is coming. You know what May 14th is?
Mother's Day.
That's Mother's Day. We talked about this on Tuesday. Look, Pro Flowers has an amazing deal. You got to take advantage of it. And we get you a special deal. 100 blooms for mom, a bouquet coming from proflowers.com, a free glass vase for just $19.99 plus shipping and handling with the 100 blooms. This is an amazing deal. I already had people on Twitter message me and say, look, I don't want to be that brother that didn't get the special gift from mom. You know how much being a mom can be a thankless job, and this is a day to thank mothers. Free vase, like I said. You choose the delivery date you want, and ProFlowers are guaranteed to arrive fresh and beautiful and stay that way for at least 7 days, or your money back. Not your mother's back. Your money back. We love ProFlowers. I've gotten this for my wife. I've gotten this for my mom before. And the only way to get 100 blooms for mom with the free glass vase starting at $19.99 is to go to proflowers.com. But when you do, this is that special deal. Use our promo code BALLERS. There's a microphone in the top right corner of the page, and you click on that, put in the code BALLERS after you click the mic and get that special deal. The bouquet sells out fast, so do not miss out on saying thank you to Mom on Mother's Day coming soon.
We'd also like to thank Pristine Auction for sponsoring the show. Foot Clan, you know how when you're opening up your web browser, Google, and it's showing you your favorite websites. It's got the boxes. Well, I've got some football. Then bam, Pristine Auction, one of my favorite places to go. Our man Jason Moore just celebrated his B-Day.
Got me a Lamar Miller signed jersey from you two gentlemen.
How do you find a unique gift? We know Jason's got everything, but what he did not have was a signed Lamar Miller, his guy. So we hooked him up. We said, happy birthday. Here's this spectacular, guaranteed authentic signature on the jersey. We love Pristine Auction. We're always looking for good deals on there. So check it out, PRISTINE auction.com. You make a completely free account. Browsing, bidding, it's all completely free. You only pay for what you win. And when you make your account, let them know that the Fantasy Footballers have sent you.
All right, back to the Eagles. You were about to contribute some thoughts there on the backfield. Donnell Pumphrey was drafted in, the 5th round? And then you had.
How would you pronounce the Pumphrey?
With an Humphrey, I think.
Thank you.
Yes, with an Humphrey. He was sandwiched by a couple of wide receivers as well. So, winners, losers. Is there anybody unmentioned here in Philadelphia?
So the loser to me when you're looking at the wide receiver crew, you have Green-Beckham, who's appears to be the failed, busted draft pick, second round, I believe. Nelson Agholor, failed first-round pick. But Mack Hollins has size. He has speed to easily replace the depth that Green-Beckham was providing.
If you want to call a winner, I mean, Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
Of the offseason, it was comedic last year, the wide receiver core that Philadelphia was running out there. It was a gun with no bullets in the chamber. This offseason,
it had the flag with the boom or pow on it.
Pew, pew. And now you add Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith, Mack Hollins, Shelton Gibson in the 5th round. This is a significant offseason and draft capital spent to equip. We've seen this around the league, right? Jameis Winston, Tampa, they just did this. Corey Davis, and they drafted another wide receiver whose name's escaping me.
Taywan Taylor.
Taywan Taylor in Tennessee. Look, you traded everything to get Carson Wentz. Literally. They don't have anything left. And then now you have an opportunity to equip him. And I think that's the message here. So
certainly, but more in free agency than the draft. I think these are future wide receivers versus people that'll make any impact this year.
You got to add enough if you want to get Dorial Green-Beckham to walk out the door. you got to get enough guys. All right, the New York Football Giants. Evan Engram in the 1st round. Jason, you're going to be okay. They chose Engram over Njoku. I know that you're not happy, but Evan Engram is a mismatch. He's a speedster. He's 6'3", 234, and in just another piece that says, hey, if you can't do it now, Eli, you're not going to do it at all. I mean, that's what it says to me. You've got Brandon Marshall in there, Evan Engram. Is there any potential chance that you view Odell Beckham Jr. as a loser in this offseason because of, you've got Brandon Marshall and Evan Engram. Both should be goal line weapons.
None for me.
None for me.
Just
at all.
checking.
No, and it's a good thing to check. But
you always have to ask these questions.
But Odell Beckham, despite his size, is just that good at football. It doesn't matter where you are on the field. He scores. I mean, we had talked about this, that half of his touchdowns were from 7 yards or shorter. I mean, he just has that knack. He can get open and he can. I guess we never question.
We don't really question Antonio Brown.
Exactly.
When you add in,
and that's who. He is.
You add Juju Smith-Schuster and Martavis Bryant. How's Antonio Brown? He's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
no big deal.
I also think that when you look at what they brought in, it's not going to necessarily take away from any one person. I think it's going to just add to the offense because, the New York Giants, they were 25th in the league in just scoring. And so if I don't think that it necessarily takes anything away. Odell Beckham was great when they were the 25th scoring team. I see the Giants as a team retooling their offense that's going to score more. Eli is the clear big winner, both in free agency and with getting Evan Engram, but I don't worry about Odell Beckham at all.
I consider Paul Perkins a big winner in this draft because if you had dropped Samaje Perine, Deontay Foreman, Kareem Hunt on the Giants, there's cause for concern. When you draft the 5th round running back,
fourth
round running back.
Wayne Gallman, that's the same round as Perine, though.
Yeah, that's true. But look, what were the options here? You bring in. Would you be happier if they had brought in LeGarrette Blount in offseason?
To take away Paul
Look,
Perkins'
they were going
value?
to bring somebody in.
I agree.
So I guess, in my opinion, I'm looking at Paul Perkins this offseason, and I'm not delusional enough to think Paul Perkins, RB1, locked and loaded, 20 carries a game. I'm trying to figure out what the least amount of damage to his value can happen. To me, a 4th-round running back is about as little of damage you could do.
Yeah,
and they talk him up. They talked him up well after this pick.
It's tough to know what's going to happen with Paul Perkins. Paul Perkins was a 5th-round pick last year, so you have even a lower draft capital invested in him than with Wayne Gallman. Gallman he's from Clemson, so most people know who he is. He was not a running back who I was overly impressed with. But what are they going to do? Because he's much larger than Paul Perkins. So if anyone profiles as a goal line running back, if they're going to do that, it would be Gallman. Meanwhile, they have 1,000 pass catching running backs on the team. You got Chandrone, the big salad. You still have Shane Vereen.
Yeah.
So where does Paul Perkins fit into the? To me, he's a loser from the fact that the mess just got messier. You handed a toddler an open can of SpaghettiOs and said, have at it.
Does that mean you would take a flyer on Gallman?
Probably not.
Because we know that the load's not going to be carried by Vereen, and it's not going to be carried by Drone.
I don't think it's...
But carrying the load doesn't seem to matter in New York lately.
Yeah, and that's the point. Is they went 1st round on Evan Engram. They 1st round bolstered up the passing game. They were already a very pass-happy team. They ran a 3-wide set more than anyone else in the NFL, and now you have a mismatched tweener tight end situation. So the running backs for the Giants,
you might call him a loser.
Yeah, Perkins? Yeah, I do have him as a loser.
All right. I was more worried about that 1st round, 2nd round guy going to New York.
Yeah, and that's
as well.
Understandable.
All right, you want to talk Washington, Jason?
Yeah, we can get into the Redskins with
my boy.
Mike is just dying to make Samaje Perine's nickname the Pain Bot.
It's already happened.
Let me get this right, Mike.
All he knows is pain, man.
Samaje Perine, you snagged him in the Dynasty League, right?
Oh, all right, Foot Clan.
We need to make a... What happened? What happened, Mike?
Dear Diary, I thought when...
What pick did you have?
I thought when our producer Brooks moved in town, I looked at this situation. I thought, I have a new friend.
Yeah.
I have a new friend. He has enriched and made my life better.
We're friends.
This is not your diary entry, Brooks.
Get out of my head.
Get out of my diary.
Well, our rookie draft started. I have the 111, and my good friend, air quotes, good friend Brooks had the 109, and he knew of my love for Samaje Painbot, and he stole him from me. He took him, the rug right under my feet. I hit my face on the way down. I was unconscious. I was in fact deceased.
You have Rob Kelly in that league?
I have Rob Kelly in that league.
Yeah,
you should have traded up.
Samaje Perine is the reason that you like him. One, you liked him before the draft. You liked him from what you saw in film. I was a little bit more lukewarm, but there was his highlights were great, and I think he was much better a few years ago. But he goes into one of the best situations
absolutely
out there. I mean, before the draft, you're looking at Rob Kelly saying, what do the Redskins really believe? And you go into the draft and you see, and while Gallman and Perine were both fourth rounders, they were opposite ends of the fourth round. I mean, there were, 5-6 running backs basically between those two players. It seems to me like they actually did invest in Perine, and because of his talent, because of that offensive line, and he's really kind of a Rob Kelly type of player.
That's who he is.
He's not going to be coming in and taking over Chris Thompson's role.
No.
Chris Thompson's safe. And so Perine can come in and I think be the starter. And We saw Rob Kelly be fantasy relevant when he was the starter. Perine is far more talented than Rob Kelly in my estimation. So if or when he takes that over, he will make a fantasy impact.
Yeah, Let me ask you this. Where did Kareem Hunt go in the third round?
I can tell you.
What pick number?
Pull up. They did trade up for Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt, yeah, they sold the farm to trade up into the third round, pick 86.
86. So on the board for the Redskins in their third round was Kareem Hunt. And I'm just surprised they didn't go Kareem Hunt because I think Kareem Hunt had 700-plus carries without a fumble in college. And that seems to be the thing that destroy whoever fumbles the least this year, maybe the guy getting the carries between Perine and Rob Kelly.
This, but Perine is also not
a stalwart in keeping the ball off the ground.
But so here's what I love. What is happening?
Sorry about that.
They at least I'm on sportsreference.com and they do not have a fumble for Perine.
Well, that makes sense. Gruden did not like the Matt Jones fumbles.
And if you don't recall, back a few years ago, Perine held the record for the most rushing yards in a single game.
Was he the one that
he held it for like a week? Melvin Gordon
the next
took
week.
it.
Yeah,
but I mean, he had that. He had to split time with Joe Mixon. He's a tremendous running back to me. He has much better hands than Rob Kelly, so that's just another plus for him to take that job early. High-powered offense.
What's the ceiling for Samaje Perine? Perfect season comes along.
A low-end one.
Is he like a Jordan Howard was last year?
Yeah, he's perfect storm. He's a low-end one. I'm not by any means calling him elite top 5 guy.
You heard it here first. Elite top 5 Samaje Perine.
Because he won't take that workload like a DJ, but he can be very good.
Very effective. And we saw, I mean, look, Rob Kelly on the talent spectrum.
They're
it gets
great
better,
offense,
yet it made a big difference. Let's move to the NFC West.
Here's another very, very interesting running back selection to me if we're talking about the San Francisco 49ers.
That's who we're talking about.
Well, there you go. You have a pick that after the draft, you had head coach Kyle Shanahan talking about how when he was not on their board, how sick he would have been to miss out on Joe Williams. Joe Williams, yet another fourth-round running back. And so you questioned coming in, they talked about, hey, at number 2, we're thinking Leonard Fournette. So was that just smoke? Was that not? Are they happy with Carlos Hyde? Do they need to bring someone in? But Kyle Shanahan has a history.
You've been kind of obsessed with Joe Williams. You've been kind of focused on him.
I'm with Jason on this.
I think Joe Williams has an opportunity to come in and be Kyle Shanahan's guy. You know, I mean, Hyde was not this regime's running back choice. I think Hyde is fine. He's a good running back. He's obviously had major health problems, but he takes a hit to me because now Kyle Shanahan, who has a history of grabbing later round running backs and bringing them in, Alfred Morris.
Well, he learned it from his pops,
right?
You take any running back and your system is so good that you have a 1,000-yard rusher.
So, I mean, if Joe Mixon, if Joe Williams ends up being Kyle Shanahan's guy, Joe Williams is going to be drafted extremely late, undrafted type of player if you're talking redraft leagues, and he's a guy that I am targeting as one of those high upside sleepers if he gets that role.
Yeah.
Is there any chance he wins the role in the preseason?
I put low chance on that.
Okay.
But he could earn his way quickly into a timeshare. And on top of that, for Carlos Hyde being a loser, I mean, San Francisco traded for Capri Bibbs, so they added another guy. It's Joe Williams. Think of it. I know you're going a little narrative street here, but Joe Williams playing that Tevin Coleman role.
Was that trade mid-draft, the Capri Bibbs trade?
Yes.
There weren't a lot of player-oriented trades during the draft, right?
No, it was pretty infrequent in the NFL.
But they traded and got Capri Bibbs, and the Broncos got a 4th, I believe, in 2018. So any other fantasy notes here? I mean, the wide receiving core, you know, they drafted a quarterback in the 3rd round. We know they have Brian Hoyer. I mean, 3rd round's a fairly strong investment at the quarterback position.
Yeah, it's all right. But I had whoever the wide receiver 2 emerges as for San Francisco, which we can't. I can't confidently say who that would be.
I think it's Curley. I mean,
yeah, it could be Curley. I mean, they signed Goodwin, who's crazy fast, but
they obviously have.
There. Yeah. But whoever it is, I think they won because the team did not invest when they had a lot of needs, to be fair, for San Francisco. So investing in a wide receiver would have probably been a bad move. But as for this year, the wide receiver, whoever the two is, they're going to get some targets.
Arizona Cardinals invested their top 2 picks on defensive players, a linebacker, Hassan Reddick, and Budda Baker. You move into the 3rd round, and you drafted a surprise pick, I think, for the majority of those pundits out there. Now, the 3rd round's where they've made hay in recent years with Tyrann Mathieu and David Johnson. Maybe you've heard of him. Chad Williams goes in the 3rd round, wide receiver out of Grambling State. I believe the first player drafted out of Grambling since 2006. Big guy, 6'1", 204.
Freakish athlete.
The kind of player that Bruce Arians likes to bring in, fast and capable, but might need some time in the system to become something. We had kind of thought maybe Arizona would be grabbing a Corey Davis early, not expecting Corey Davis to go number 5. To me, I viewed David Johnson a winner in this draft.
Certainly.
Not because they didn't draft somebody to compete with him, because nobody can compete with David Johnson in this offense, but because they strengthened the defense. And this team should lean on the running game, the foundation of this team, as opposed to going and getting a high-profile wide receiver.
And they grabbed a couple linemen as well.
Yeah, they grabbed some linemen. So to me, David Johnson's a winner, if it's possible for him to be a winner. And look, I don't see a lot of losers in this situation. Do you guys have any other thoughts on Arizona?
No, I don't think there are any losers other than maybe you could argue that Carson Palmer missed out on that, top flight wide receiver addition. But no, I mean, and Chad Williams is a name that you just need to keep in the back of your mind, because while I didn't love his film, I trust Arians' history and Steve Keim's history for both wide receivers and magical 3rd-round picks.
Yeah, and it's not just the
opportunity
Arians.
is there too.
Yeah, Larry Fitzgerald's going to be gone. Chad Williams is just a super interesting guy for Dynasty. Where does he go? I'm with Jason that when I didn't know who Chad Williams was, but when Bruce Arians takes a wide receiver in the 3rd round, okay, well, I'm going to go check it out. I wasn't overly impressed by what I saw. However, notable 3rd-round wide receivers that Bruce Arians has made magic for: Mike Wallace, Emmanuel Sanders, T.Y. Hilton, John Brown. Those
are all 3rd round?
They were all 3rd-round picks. That's a strong list.
Name them one more time. I want to hear those again.
Mike Wallace,
yeah,
Emmanuel Sanders, T.Y. Hilton, John Brown.
To say nothing of Antonio Brown, who was a later round pick.
Right. Well, these are guys that he worked with. He was the offensive coordinator and the wide receiver coach for Pittsburgh, and then of course he was the Colts' interim head coach when they picked Hilton up. But just what value do you guys put on Chad Williams for a dynasty rookie draft, knowing that Larry Fitzgerald is gone next year, John Brown?
Yeah, but Carson Palmer's probably gone next year.
Sure, but
the
it's
value
still
I
Bruce
put
Arians' offensive system.
Sure, I have other guys that I like.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of guys are like higher than him, probably a 3rd round pick.
Yeah, 3rd round or out of the 3rd round, depending on how rookie drafts fall.
One of the guys I like more than Chad Williams is Josh Reynolds in St. Louis. 4th round
Los
pick.
Angeles.
Oh my gosh. How many times am I going to do that? Brooks, when you write the Rams name in docs from now on, put LA in front of it until you train me like I'm some sort of
Ron Burgundy
monkey. Cooper Kupp and Josh Reynolds drafted in the 3rd and 4th round for the LA Rams. You had Gerald Everett, the tight end, going in the 2nd round. I think the Gerald Everett pick, I think it's a good pick. I also think it was kind of like a deflating selection at the position, because you had the kind of Njoku and Engram and Howard were off the board, and yet you were sitting here at the early part of the 2nd round, and Everett was the next natural name off the board. But those of you who are Tyler Higbee truthers can't be happy with this draft pick here. He's a loser in this one.
No, and
yes.
from what I understand, out of LA, is that they were actually targeting Gerald Everett. This is a really deep tight end class. It's not just the 3 names that you're used to hearing. He is a quality tight end, and so I think that it's a name you might want to look for the future. But Jared Goff is also a winner from the draft. Now, he lost in free agency, so it's probably just a wash. But coming into the draft, they got him pieces, 2 wide receivers and a good pass-catching tight end is a win for the quarterback coming into his second year.
The Rams are going to be disappointed at they're going to call for, can we figure out how to get more slot receivers onto the field, because their wide receiver core is littered with
You're
them.
talking about Cooper Kupp.
I'm not just Cooper, but go look at their
Mixing with Tavon Austin. And,
yeah.
Robert Woods.
Yeah, it's crazy how many slot guys they have. But just to reemphasize for Gerald Everett, they did not have a first-round pick. This is their first pick in the draft, and they targeted Gerald Everett. This is Sean McVay, who just ran an offense for 2 years that ran through the tight end position.
That's why we liked Higbee to a degree.
Yes.
All right, Seattle, the Seahawks, they had a lot of picks. They had a lot of picks.
They just kept trading down. They traded, I think, 3 times they traded down before taking their first pick.
They had 2 second-rounders and 4 third-round picks. The first offensive piece that they grabbed was, I believe, third-round pick Amara.
Skill position?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to. I don't remember how to pronounce his last name. Darbo.
Let's go with that.
Darbo. Amara Darbo.
DeBarro. I
Yeah.
like that. Amaro DeBarro.
Amaro DeBarro. Wide receiver, 6'2", 214 out of Michigan. Who's the winner in this draft? Took a center in the second round.
Yeah,
the O-line.
I like that a lot. They had to address the O-line, but this is a zero-sum here for me. It's whoever was – so I guess maybe you say the winners of whoever was already there in Seattle. You win.
They've been in need of a center since they shipped one off for Jimmy Graham.
Of an entire offensive line, but yes, I think they were a little bit losers. I think they traded, down a couple spots, and Jacksonville came up and selected Cam Robinson.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, that's a player Seattle could have used. Why not take him? I mean,
sometimes
maybe they didn't like him
when you dance with the devil.
But as of right now, I don't really trust their current offensive line evaluations, because their offensive line hasn't been good. So I would say this was a loser draft a little bit for Russell Wilson. They didn't add anything to me. I mean, I guess that second round center, that's good, but I feel like they could have done more to help him. So that
if you were expecting that offensive line to get better, I don't know if you think they got better enough.
Yeah, a second round center is all you got.
All right, NFC North time. All right, let's talk about the Chicago Bears.
Oh man.
Now, I have been the one that said I thought Mitchell Trubisky was the best quarterback of this draft.
You have.
I also have been the one that said I believe Carson Wentz is better than all the quarterbacks in this draft, and that certainly I expected Trubisky to go at 2 because he's a quarterback. I didn't think he belonged at 2. I certainly didn't know he was going to go to the Chicago Bears. This was a monstrous trade, and I play the music because the sentiment in Chicago seemed to match it. You had Mike Glennon there. They just paid Mike Glennon to come in, and now you got Mitch Trubisky.
You had Mike Glennon at the team's draft party.
So mean. Hey, come and join us. The fans are going to love it. See their starting
I
quarterback.
didn't hear that.
If you had any inkling that this is what you were going to do as a team.
Stay home.
They were.
Stay home, Glennon.
Why would you do that?
They were divided, though. I mean, the GM, Ryan Pace, and John Fox are not agreeing. They are not building together in the same direction here. This is, a house divided is going to crumble here. And the worst part about drafting Mitchell Trubisky, a lot's going to be fine if he turns out to be a great player. But the issue is not there. The issue is that he would have been there at your next pick. You're the next pick.
Yeah.
The only other trade up to the number 2 rumors even were just Leonard Fournette with the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's just mind-blowing to me that they gave up that much to move up one spot for a team that was not going to take him.
It's the fear, man. The fear in the quarterback position. I mean, Mike Glennon's an obvious loser in this situation because, look, you spend the number 2 pick on him, he's going to play. That's the end of the story for all of these guys.
And to kind of just back up what Jason was saying, if Trubisky is a franchise quarterback, I mean, there's a low percentage of that, but if, then they really didn't give up a lot for a franchise quarterback compared to what people have been doing in the past couple of years. I mean, 3 threes. Wait, am I reading this right? No, I apologize. So 2 threes and a 4. 2 threes and a 4.
And they swapped,
to get your franchise guy, that's not a a ton, but I agree with Jason that they got duped.
If you're not happy with Tyler Higbee's situation with Los Angeles drafting a tight end, how can you be happy with Zach Miller's situation with a second-round pick being used by the Bears?
Yeah, Adam Shaheen he's got some juice.
Yeah.
Man, this is a big
And we know Zach
boy.
Miller's old.
Yes, you can't rely on Zach Miller. Well, I don't know if you can ever rely on Zach Miller just given the track record of his career, but Adam Shaheen, 6'6", 278, very athletic. It's
a downgrade for me for Zach Miller.
It's a downgrade to me for all of the offensive weapons. This is a team to me where I was really excited to see what does Cameron Meredith do, what does Kevin White do, what does Zach Miller do, all of these options. And while I don't think Mike Glennon is great, for year one, I'm not talking dynasty here, just redraft options, I think that all the pass catchers take a step back because Glennon's not going to play 16.
That's what I was going to ask you. So you do think that they'll bring Trubisky into the –
Yes.
Yeah, I think Glennon will play –
under 10 games for Glennon.
I'd probably take the under. I think Glennon will play –
I'll take the over.
I think Glennon will play 6, 7, 8 games, and he'll be better than an incoming rookie Trubisky who's played 12 college games for the production of those wide receivers. So
there's a lot wrong there.
Kind of the darts that I wanted to throw at some of those in redraft formats at those pass catchers, I'm going to throw those elsewhere.
All right, the Detroit Lions. Lions drafted a wide receiver, Kenny Golladay, in the 3rd round.
I like it.
Added a tight end in the 4th round. And
do you hear something? Hold on. Listen.
Oh,
Listen.
no. Yeah, I thought that was pulling up.
Pulling up to the station, the big winner from the Detroit Lions. Choo-choo! The Amir Abdullah Express. Ready for
I can't even argue with you, which is so annoying.
I will say this.
I wish I could.
From the draft, Amir Abdullah is a clear winner.
He is.
However, there are already –
Get out of here with your however.
I believe LeGarrette Blount has a scheduled visit with the Lions as well. So I agree from the draft.
No. With that Joik Bell speed coming at you.
From
do we
the
have
draft,
the two?
Do you know who else is visiting? I kid you not. I did not know LeGarrette Blount had a scheduled visit. Who's slower than LeGarrette Blount and Joik Bell?
Oh, man. Give it to me.
Matt Asiata.
Oh, that's right.
Coming in for a visit when Joik Bell.
I did hear that.
When Joik Bell is too fast for you, you bring in Matt Asiata for a workout.
Me? Am I going to the Lions?
Yes, you have a scheduled workout.
But Amir Abdullah, he has to be a winner. They've called him the starting running back.
And they strengthened the offensive line on the offseason.
So I like it. I'm probably going to be back fully on board with the Express. And when you were mentioning Kenny Golladay,
I wanted them to draft this exact type of player.
That's big.
A
6'4",
big boy.
218.
They needed one.
And you'll have Marvin Jones still, but Golden Tate.
Yeah.
Golden Tate gets to be what he is. And that's a high volume possession guy coming out of the slot. And so can we get Golden Tate back to what he was a couple years ago? That'd be fantastic.
Absolutely, you can. I mean, you saw it the second half of last year. He just got off to a slow start as they were trying to force feed Marvin Jones into the offense. And I would say, we talked about it earlier, but I think Eric Ebron is a winner. They did draft a tight end in the 4th round, but I mean, they didn't grab anybody who's going to come in and steal snaps at all.
All right, we're moving on to the Packers. The Packers, big story here, big fantasy storyline. Jamaal Williams, 4th round pick. Love the draft pick. Was surprised they waited as long as they did for a running back, considering they had 4 picks ahead of that. But they did invest the pick on Jamaal Williams. They came out and said Ty Montgomery is still the starting running back. But that is such a it's such a nondescript type of role in by saying he's the starting running back. It's not saying a lot. Is all I mean. I like Ty Montgomery. I projected him to catch the ball. I projected him to run the ball. I just don't see him as somebody that's not going to split time with Jamaal Williams.
I'm happy to hear you say that because I know right after the draft I heard one of you two, I don't even remember, say that you think, Ty Montgomery is safe and he's in his role. And I've seen reports that he is a winner after the draft. I can't even wrap my head around that because, look, he's named the starter. That's great. Kind of like Andy, you're saying it's nondescript. That's great. But what did the Giants or what did the Packers think of their running back situation? They drafted 3 running backs. They didn't just in the 4th round draft Jamaal Williams.
And cut Kristen Michael.
Yeah, they obviously did not like their running back situation. They cut Michael and Jackson, right?
Woo!
Yeah, they were told to beat it, as a headline said in Green Bay. But my point is, they were not confident that Ty Montgomery can be their main running back for this season.
You can't be confident.
Of course not.
He's been hurt. He's been banged up. His career, even last year after he took over at a running back position, he got hurt again, and he missed time. You have to split time with him. It doesn't mean he's not going to be fantasy relevant. He's going to be very fantasy. I almost made a trade for him today.
Yeah, I'm not off of Montgomery, and while Jamaal Williams was a guy I liked as a later round pick, who my alleged friend also stole out from underneath my feet. But while I was taking my victory lap,
Brooks was in the bushes, by the way. If you know about the bushes, Brooks was hiding in there whispering.
There are some very unsavory things going down
in the bushes.
But while I'm taking my victory lap around Twitter, like, yeah, P. Ryan, Jamaal Williams. And then the 5th round, then they grab Aaron Jones, who he's a sneaky type of guy who can profile out as a pass catcher.
Truly.
So you're just like, what is going on with the Green Bay running backs?
We need to move. We need to move on.
Never.
Jason, you have something profound and life-changing to say?
I do. I want to say that, to me, the Green Bay Packers running back situation, I know a lot of people are targeting Jamaal Williams. This is one I want to avoid because I think all 3 of those guys, Aaron Jones, Jamaal Williams, and Ty Montgomery, can get the job done and will be involved.
It's a Donner Party situation.
0 wide receivers drafted by the Packers. Little butt tap for Devontae Adams and company there. The Vikings surprised a lot of people.
They dominated the 7th round.
They dominated the 7th round. They moved up. Wow, 4 picks in the 7th. They traded up, surprised a lot of people, including the Philadelphia Eagles. They drafted, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, in my opinion, Dalvin Cook. They made him the 9th pick of the 2nd round. He had fallen far enough. The Vikings traded up to grab him. It's interesting that the pick that they ended up trading ended up being Joe Mixon.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
And then they lost the 4th round wide receiver, Josh Malone. Well, I mean, obviously they could have drafted anybody. But Dalvin Cook steps into Minnesota, typically a bad offensive line situation. Now they did invest a 3rd round pick in a center, but last year it was trouble for the
that's taking it easy on him.
Yeah, it is. Dalvin Cook doesn't necessarily, he's not necessarily between the tackles all day long. He can do other things. He can be a bigger part of this offense. Latavius Murray's a loser.
Yes, Latavius Murray is the quintessential volume is king for fantasy football.
I thought you were going to say the quintessential loser. I thought you were going to go harsh.
No, but Latavius Murray, who in Oakland behind a spectacular offensive line, could only plod his way to fantasy value, which, I mean, he did.
He got touchdowns.
I'm not going to take it away from him. A lot of touchdowns, but now you have a guy that they spent high draft capital, moved up to get him.
As a Latavius Murray owner, not happy.
Yes.
Not happy at all. I went out and I projected Latavius Murray, and I'm talking you've got incremental increases on Matt Asiata's numbers. You've got the guarantee to be – you should be in there around the goal line. You didn't pay him an offseason contract, but now he's coming off of surgery. I mean, I just don't see a high ceiling for Latavius Murray.
I don't either.
Especially when he made it up last year on these little pass catches, and Dalvin Cook's going to eat those up with a spoon.
And McKinnon is still there. Latavius Murray's contract was very front-loaded, so if they want to, they can move on from him next season. For fantasy drafts, if Latavius Murray happens to be falling to an appropriate spot for me, 7th, 8th round, I'll still take the shot on him. But it sucks. You won't at all in the 8th round?
No.
Okay.
No, I won't. But if you said 17th, I would say yes.
17th pick overall.
He was. Cool. I mean, he was looking like a 4th round running back.
Yeah, I traded for him because I thought, hey, look, there's a baseline there, being the guy paid out of the backfield. Now it's all gone down the toilet. I mean, biggest loser of the draft, he's got to be in the top 5.
Yeah, I completely agree.
All right, we got to move on to the NFC South. We have not forgotten about you. Jameis Winston, live from his house.
I mean, are you kidding me?
They said, hey, D-Jax, Evans, I always thought Humphrey was just fine. And you bring O.J. Howard in, who, look, the pick to me would have been Dalvin Cook if Howard hadn't dropped all the way down to 19.
I can't believe he fell to 19.
Oh, he was so close to getting to my pick there at, 25? It wasn't going to happen. Chris Godwin in the 3rd round, one of the guys that
great pick.
reception perception loved.
Matt Harmon's favorite. I mean, just an absolute metric beast.
And you took
McNichols.
Yeah,
I love Jeremy McNichols.
Yeah, great pick.
It's very unfortunate that he was a 5th-round pick. I mean, so it's an uphill climb. Very overly crowded backfield with Doug Martin, who they keep
assuming they keep him.
Why do they keep talking of Doug Martin, which maybe a lot of people are saying that's positive. It's bizarre to me that a guy you gave a ton of money, you're like, no, fan base. He looks great. He's in the best shape of his life. He's the best player in camp.
You know, we were looking at this the other day, and it's just funny perception-wise that when you look at Jaquiz Rodgers and Doug Martin, Doug Martin is older than Jaquiz.
I couldn't believe it.
It's just one of those, like, Jaquiz seems like this journeyman, been around for a while.
If AARP was going to let one of the two in, it would have been Jaquiz.
Yeah,
but
no.
Nope.
So I agree. McNichols, if Martin leaves, then McNichols' opportunity is great. He's a good pass blocker.
Charles Sims is still there, too. So, I mean, he's buried, but I think long-term that Jeremy McNichols has the talent to make
have an
a
impact.
mark. I mean, he had 40-plus receptions last year.
Doug Martin's a big winner to me. They didn't draft Dalvin Cook. They didn't spend early capital. McNichols will compete. He's not going to compete for what Martin. And Martin, all the reports about Martin is that he's the most impressive player now in workouts.
Weird.
Look.
It's weird because what they're doing right now is
he's got the ability to lead the league in rushing.
This is fair.
Yeah, but what you needed to see from Doug Martin was, is this a guy committed to coming back and playing football?
Sure.
Or is this a guy that we thought was on the borderline of being cut?
Yeah, I know
he's on that.
You went through your running backs, and you have Doug Martin very high for
I'll tell you exactly where I have him. I got Doug Martin at number 15 overall in a standard league.
Suspension.
14 in a half point, and that is with a 3-game suspension considered. So I do like Doug Martin. I tried to make trades for him today in our Dynasty League. I tried to move that Latavius Murray fellow and some other pieces to get Doug Martin, and it didn't happen.
It's too bad I don't have him because I would have gladly traded him to you.
Yeah, I know. We have our guys. The Atlanta Falcons, will be quick through them because there just wasn't a lot of moves that made impacts here.
Not on the offense.
No, you had a 5th-round running back in Brian Hill from Wyoming picked and a 5th-round tight end. But, guys, I don't want to linger here if there's nothing to talk about winner or loser-wise.
Nope. Everyone who was there, you win.
Yep.
Welcome to the new Carolina Panthers offense. Christian McCaffrey and Curtis Samuel, welcome to the club. Christian McCaffrey, apparently my take about him being drafted in the top 10 was not bold whatsoever. I do realize that now. That wasn't the case in earlier mock drafts.
No, early on, he was one of the biggest risers over the few months leading up to the draft, especially after the Combine. He was so good at the Combine. And, look, you've seen a couple worries out there that Carolina does not throw the ball to the running back position
I have those numbers if you want.
Their volume is low, and you can get to those numbers in a second, but my belief is that that's going to change. They don't draft Curtis Samuel and Christian McCaffrey and talk about how much the offense needs to evolve unless they are going to change what their offense is. They have a lot of turnover here on the offensive side of the ball. You got Ted Ginn is gone, new weapons in fast speed. I mean, they are looking like a different offense. My worry is not with the volume of the offense because I do think it changes. My worry is, can Cam Newton be a good quarterback at actually passing touch passes to the running back position? That's my worry with Christian McCaffrey.
I do not have any worry. I think it's far too broad sweeping and just a story of stories to have a problem with Christian McCaffrey in Carolina. When Fozzie Whitaker had to be the lead back, guess what? He caught 9 passes, and then he caught 5 passes. It's not – Christian McCaffrey's great. You didn't have pieces there. Obviously, Jonathan Stewart was not going to be featured in that way, and so they didn't feature him.
Yeah, and so for those targets, you have at least Cam's rookie year, Jonathan Stewart had 47 receptions, but basically every year since then, the running back has been targeted less and less. You're talking a 13% market share of the targets, and 18% is middle of the pack. So I mean, they're way towards the bottom. And then you have another very concerning thing. Pat Thorman, my man from Pro Football Focus, tweeted out this graph
great.
Showing here is passer ratings. A pass rating of quarterbacks when they're throwing 5 yards or less.
Those passes to Christian McCaffrey.
It is comical how bad Cam Newton was last year. You're talking a sub-60 passer rating, worse than Goff, Simeon, Wentz, Taylor. I mean, you got to look at the chart. It's extremely funny how bad he was. So that's why and I'm with Andy. I'm not off of McCaffrey. I think he's an incredibly talented guy, but it's just strange. It's a unique situation of a team that was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and now they're saying
they're revamping
their
offense.
Blowing it up and saying we are changing what the offense looks like.
Well, here's a couple things to keep in mind, and I need your guys' perspective on something that I have not heard talked about nearly enough. But before that, you've talked about Cam Newton and the fact that, look, he's at the point in his career where the rushing yards are going to have to come down to keep him healthy. Now you add this piece at the running back position. Jonathan Stewart's still there. You got a slot receiver that can be your quicks instead of his legs. But what happens to Jonathan Stewart? I think everybody sat there this offseason with a grimace about Jonathan Stewart. Now you draft Christian McCaffrey. I mean, what is Jonathan Stewart just going to plummet down to the bottom of the ADP charts?
Yes, and that's why I will.
He had 9 touchdowns last year.
I will probably have plenty of shares of Jonathan Stewart. I think people are going to overreact. Christian McCaffrey is not a guy that's going to come in and get 250 carries. That's not what they're bringing him in to do. They're bringing him in to, like we said, change that offense, get speed, get receptions out of the backfield, all of that. Jonathan Stewart will have Jonathan Stewart will have goal line opportunities. He will have, I think, 150-plus rushing attempts. This is a team that runs the ball, and I know they're changing it up, but they're not just going to all of a sudden become a Drew Brees-style offense. And so I think
I'm going to put you on the spot.
No one is going to want to draft Jonathan Stewart. I think he plummets in ADP, and that's a guy that you're going to get 8th round or later. And if you're telling me I have to draft in the 8th round Jonathan Stewart or Latavius Murray, I'm without a
that's
doubt.
fair.
Those are the two I was about to ask you about.
Then yes,
because when Jonathan Stewart looks in the mirror, he sees Latavius Murray.
Yeah, now I got to tell you, during your thing.
Oh, I know.
You know
what happened?
I saw.
So I got Andied.
Oh no,
I did not know. So I've been drinking my water,
Yes.
So I have my cup full of water. So it was completely regular. And as I get towards the bottom, I'm starting to get a hint of chocolate. And I'm like, this is delightful. And I thought it was remnants from
a coffee,
from a chocolate coffee, only to have just gazed down and I have. I've been almonded.
You got Jasoned because Andy almonded me a couple months ago, and then he tried again today.
It's very good. If you
have
had chocolate water, it's great.
If you have a friend, put an almond in their drink.
When they're not looking.
When they're not looking.
It's a good time.
We're going to close this one out with the New Orleans Saints. The big story here is
the biggest loser of the draft.
Maybe the biggest loser of the offseason in a lot of ways, Mark Ingram. Woe is Mark Ingram. Alvin Kamara drafted in the 3rd round after Adrian Peterson was paid this offseason.
A trade up
to grab Alvin Kamara, 5'10", 214, a guy that can catch passes. And then you have Adrian Peterson, a guy who can run it in from the goal line. And so Mark Ingram's left there with a shrug and the middle finger from Sean Payton. So what do we do now?
You kind of saw this layout back in the day when it was Darren Sproles and Pierre Thomas and Mark Ingram. And so Mark Ingram is going to play his role that he played. He wasn't as involved catching the ball. I think you certainly have to move him down. And when you say the biggest loser in the draft, you're not speaking of the Saints. You're speaking of Mark Ingram.
It's great for the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Alvin Kamara is a guy. We're doing our rookie draft right now. I tried pick after pick after pick to try to trade up to get Alvin Kamara because while I don't think he will ever, I know he will never take over the 3-down role, he is in a system that fits exactly what he does and has always been a fantasy producing spot, whether that was Pierre Thomas or Darren Sproles or, whoever
you could have a new Theo Riddick on your hands.
Yeah, and so, for me, I think Alvin Kamara is a great asset. Mark Ingram is wrecked by this. He's going to be an RB2 is like his ceiling.
Yeah.
Here, I'm going to put you on the spot. First, this is Willie Snead's a winner. Willie Snead's a winner.
Yes,
that needs to be
absolutely.
mentioned because we said before the draft, watch and see what happens. Willie Snead's a winner. Rank them: Mark Ingram, Latavius Murray, Jonathan Stewart.
I would probably
Carlos
go,
Hyde. I'm going to put Hyde in there too.
I would probably go still, even though I just said that, he will be involved, and I will go Ingram, Hyde, Stewart, Murray.
I would go Hyde, Ingram, Stewart, Murray.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
And in this super, super deep tight end draft class, they did not grab a tight end.
It's a fair point.
And so Kobe Fleener has another chance.
Are you telling me he can catch 52 passes again?
Yes,
Are you telling me he has the
That's
potential?
what he does, man. 52 receptions. That's what he's going to do.
52 receptions, 14 drops.
Just a matter of how many touchdowns he gets.
All right, that is it for the show. Thanks for tuning in. A reminder, check out ultimatedraftkit.com. Get ready for the Fantasy Football 2017 draft. Kick some serious draft butt.
And check out Fantasy
Not
Jocks.
Jake butt, draft butt.
Check out fantasyjocks.com for some fantasy trophies. The promo code is
Baller.
Footballers. It's Footballers.
Footballer.
Goodbye.
Now make up with
Thank you
Brooks.
for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.